Hello and welcome to today's video on the Harvey Sports Journalism channel. Today we are doing an interview with former Sage CEO and former Harvey student Stephen Kelly. Today we are also joined with Chris and Clem, who are also going to be asking questions. So yeah, let's get into the questions. Let's go on to school life. So Stephen, as many people watching on the channel are going to be students of the school, what advice can you give to them?
When I went to school, I guess in the context of Harvey, I had a fantastic time. Things I remember vividly was the sport and the camaraderie. And in terms of, with that, I learned kind of discipline, structure and the value of hard work. And I think I've just been in a year 10 economics lesson and I've kind of been blown away how education's changed, because when I went to school it was all about learning knowledge and regurgitating the knowledge in exams. Now it's about, obviously with the power of technology, all the knowledge is there and it's applying the knowledge. So I think the advice would be is, just make sure you think about how do you solve problems, how do you analyse things, critical thinking, and leverage that knowledge to be kind of brought into real life solutions.
Perfect, thank you very much. So with many students taking their GCSEs at the moment, how do you think the Harvey Grammar School prepared you for your jobs to come?
I think, well, first of all I should say good luck to all the boys doing the final sprint of their 5 or 7 year marathon. And kind of this is showtime, so it's really worth doing the best you can and putting in the hours of hard work to make sure everything you've been taught here comes to realisation when you sit down in front of that exam paper. I think again I can see now how the school's changed a lot. I guess the question is sort of what advice would, based on what I know, give to the boys in terms of thinking of the transition either to sixth form, but more importantly when they leave at the age of 18 to go into the adult world. I think there's a few things I'd say. First of all, you've got a very different life expectancy to what I had. It may seem remarkable, but kind of when I left school, life expectancy probably for men was about 70. Many of you may live till 100. And also that has a direct ramification on Britain and an Asian population that you might work for more than 50 years. So it's really important if you're going to work for 50 years. One of the life rules I have is be true to yourself. And what does that mean in the context of your career? I think what it means is to absolutely find what you love. To find what is it are your dreams. Because it's a lot more fun going to work and working for people you respect and you enjoy the company of and doing something that enriches you and you really enjoy. I don't think it's being true to yourself if you're at the age of 28 and you're sitting there at your desk and you absolutely hate your job. That's kind of doesn't make any sense to any of us. So kind of rule number one, what are your dreams? Live your dreams. And I think the relevant factor as you prepare either for apprenticeship or university or work is test drive things if you don't know what your dreams are. Now for me, I didn't know when I left 18 what I wanted to do. And there's lots of people like me who actually kind of had to iterate and experiment till they found what they love. But when I found what I love, wow, boy, I have a really fortunate and brilliant career. But it's because I did what I loved and was true to myself. And I think it's really important to have that authenticity for all of yourselves. Now, let's talk about if you don't know what you love. And I think it's definitely great advice, and maybe we'll talk about this a bit more, is test drive things till you find what you do love. And a brilliant way to do that, obviously, is the whole world of work experience, internships, apprenticeships, and all those sort of things. So I think you've got a brilliant opportunity at Harvey. And as you prepare for adulthood, then I'd say really ask yourself, what is it you love doing? What do you enjoy? What are the subjects that really excited you and you feel passionate about? And then what are the careers that will allow you to, your personal journey, step into those and actually be really passionate about? And if you don't know, absolutely no need to have any anxiety. Many people like me didn't know when we left at 18 what we'd do, and we had to go on a journey to find out.
Perfect.
With lots of year 10s and year 12s trying to find work experience placements in lots of different businesses, how important personally do you feel this is for life and a career in the future?
I think it's a great question, Chris, and I think a really important factor
to try as much work experience as you possibly get the opportunity. The context is you're going to have long careers ahead of you. You've got to find out what you're really passionate about and do what you love. And many of you, like me, won't know what that is at the age of 18. So the best way to find out is sort of test drive. Road test different, like whether it's 2 weeks of work experience or a 6-month intern, and it will give you a real experience. When you're actually doing a job, that's the only right way you really find out what it's like to be walking in the shoes of whether it's an engineer or in the hotelier hospitality industry or like me in the technology industry. So it's really insightful to actually do that and test drive those jobs. So I think work experience is such a powerful way for you to find out what is your kind of Northern Star, or what is it that really is going to wake you up in the morning with a spring in your step, wanting to go off and pursue your career. The other factor is I know very well most of the graduate employees at the end of university, as an example, really weight very heavily those individuals that have done internships or placements with them. And it's to the point where they can take as many as 70 to 80% of their intake from guys and girls who have actually done a placement with them. So it actually allows you to, number one, become a lot more employable. Number two, very practically, it allows you to find what do you love doing and pursue your dreams. Number three, the biggest factor is it really enhances when you go for interviews, things to talk about. Because you can talk about case studies, problems that you solved during your work experience, during your internship, your placement, that bring the interview to life, and it makes you a lot more marketable and it builds your personal brand.
Thank you.
So previous job of the as CEO of the Sage Group, would you have known about jobs like that even when you left school, when you were doing your final exams in Harvey?
No, I think, again, great question, Clem. And I didn't even know sort of about the exciting world of technology way back, and actually Sage hadn't even been created when I left school. So I think it sort of speaks strongly to a world of a lot of change out there in terms of careers and opportunities. And the best advice I could give is kind of live your dreams, find out what you love, pursue your passions in your career, and be true to yourself. And as you evolve during your career through your 20s and 30s and 40s, the only constant is change. The world of change is around you. This technology wasn't even around 15 years ago. It came out in 2007, and now there's billions of these devices, and they've changed all their lives. Boys sitting here wouldn't have heard of things like Call of Duty and stuff like that and Fortnite a couple of years ago, and now it's part of everyday life. So the world of technology is just accelerating at a rapid rate. So I think it is a really important life message again, to not be closed to things, be open to things, be open to opportunities, always be curious. Curiosity is a great quality for you to have. And if people tell you you can't do stuff, don't believe them. Don't let voices come into your head saying I can't do stuff. Give it a go. Because then you can choose based on having done it and road tested it. Is it something I like doing? And if it is, do more of it. If it's not, you can say, I've learned that, but it gives me more experience to talk about why I want to do something else.
Thank you. Obviously doing very well in your fields. How did you manage to branch into your field at such an alien time when it wasn't really created, and still manage to climb up the ranks to the possibly the highest points?
I think a lot of the elements, when I look back at my career, the companies that I actually joined through my career weren't even created at the time I left school. And the whole technology industry didn't exist. So, it was before there were personal computers and laptops. So the world has radically changed during my career of 40 years, 35 years. But that's been incredibly exciting. So that kind of key value around your own curiosity gives you the appetite to learn more, explore more, try new things, innovate more. And that's one of the things I found, honestly, when I look back at myself at school, I was a pretty ordinary kid. I wasn't the best kid, wasn't the smartest kid. I also, honestly, I got suspended. So there was, all the things that a normal kind of enthusiastic, sport-loving individual could do. But when I left school, then one thing that the school taught me is around the value of hard work, the value of structure and discipline, and applying yourself, and also just putting your hand up and saying, I'll give it a go. And then part of that allowed me to have a very successful early career, and people just sort of noticed that I got on and did the job, didn't make a big fuss, really good team player, worked with people really well collaboratively. And then people started mentoring me and helping me on to the next level. And during that course, I've done pretty much all the significant roles in technology companies. I've worked in New York, I've worked in California, I've been the Chief Operating Officer of the UK government. And I'll be really candid with you guys, I sort of pinch myself, because if I look back at when I was your age, I wouldn't have a clue those opportunities would have opened to me. Just a kind of normal kid from Folkestone, and I end up working in California. I work up Westminster and all these amazing places with the best people, both in the technology industry and the world of politics. And I pinch myself. A lucky boy, but what kind of keeps me true to myself is that the value of hard work, the value of actually meeting results, doing what you said you would, not letting people down, being a great team player, and all of the things you're learning at school in terms of applying the critical thinking and analysis to problems to create solutions, and just be a really all-round kind of good guy.
Okay, so who do you think your role models have been, through your journey and in your field of work, and how did you think that they pushed you to doing, or motivated you to doing what you do now?
Yeah, what I'd say is, this is a relationship I've had with many mentors and a number of different role models at different stages of my career. So in my 20s, I was inspired by people like Richard Branson. And how did I know that 30 years later I'll be sitting on the stage with Richard Branson interviewing him with 15,000 people in front of us out in Chicago. But he was an inspiration, he was a role model, he was really, I guess, the essence of the can-do attitude, the guy that was the disruptor. He started an airline because he couldn't get on an airline to get out the Caribbean. He saw gaps in the market, and he always lived in the customer's shoes, which are great for a business person, great kind of morals to have in terms of the values you bring. Kind of go with the customers, find out the needs that they've got, or invent their future. I hold this technology up. Everybody thought Steve Jobs was mad when this originally was conceived at the board meeting, but now, it's just the way we live our lives. So there's been many mentors that I've had. I've been very privileged to have people like a guy called Dr. Steve Garner, incredible guy, had a golden career, has the Midas touch, started with me at Oracle when it was a very early stage company. Now it employs, I think, 140,000 people. Went off to build Siebel to a market value of 40 billion. And then had the insight to really be part of the team that really promoted the vision around cloud computing, which is the kind of dominant model for the current generation of businesses and the future. And the guy behind that was a guy called Mark Benioff, who's the chief executive and chairman of Salesforce.com. So Steve's been really instrumental in terms of a great mentor. Mark Benioff, a fantastic role model, particularly around compassionate capitalism, where businesses can grow, be successful, and everybody talks about businesses and obviously being successful and growing profits, but businesses also can create prosperity for communities, to support charities, to support people who are vulnerable, and that's a model that I passionately believe in. And then when I was in the civil service, just a final mentor that I'll mention, who was an inspirational individual, who was the head of the civil service and was my mentor there, and that's Sir Jeremy Hayward, who very sadly passed away, but he was a genius. His service for Britain was exemplary. And as a mentor, he was very insightful, and I was a great student. So I think kind of the summary is, as you go through your career, you should look for people that you admire a lot, and you should approach them and say, would you mentor me? What I would advise you to do is always ask the question, and what I would expect to happen is 99 times out of 100, the answer will be yes. Because people are very generous, and people like me and lots of my friends and colleagues are very, very committed to see the younger generation be hugely successful, and also take advantage of our experiences. And we've got lots of scars on our back that haven't kind of gone perfectly, or things we've learned when we made mistakes. Kind of, there's no concept of failure, it's just feedback and learning. And if you can get that and get it bottled by someone who's been on that journey before, it can save you an awful lot of time and avoid you making mistakes that they made. So I think, definitely I would encourage you to go out and seek mentors when you get into apprenticeships or university, or go out to work. And then over time, develop your network of mentors who can help you with really good practical experience on the University of Life and hard knocks to make sure that you can do the very best you can and exceed your potential.
So with many old Harveyans being very successful in their respective fields, how important do you think it is for them to pay down their experience, pay down their intelligence, down to the younger generation at Harvey?
I think, yes, I guess it's a responsibility. That's why I'm here today. But more than that, I think maybe at the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, you think there's no one out there to help you. But there's a rich pool of ex-Harvey people who were you 20, 30, 40 years ago, who are backing you. They're on your team. They're part of your family. And they'll really give their own time. I've met David Schreiber, who's very senior at Ocado. I was with Max Shepard, who left to be in Formula One and high performance cars, and now he's a rock star engineer and a director of a company. And he's just been upstairs talking to years 12 and 13 about how to go about apprenticeships and work experience, and how to kind of get on in the life and world of engineering, and what it's like, the real university of hard knocks and reality, university of life, and what it's really like. And you never know that till you actually go and do the job. Obviously, you've all got a vision of whether it's being a professional footballer, an engineer, or a construction manager, or building dams, or a software engineer, whatever it is, or even a teacher. You don't know what it's like until you do that job. So the good news is there's thousands of ex-Harveyans, and there's certainly some of them doing the jobs that you think you might love to do. So why not kind of go and ask them what it's like, and maybe even ask them for work experience, and maybe even ask them for an internship, and maybe even ask them to be a mentor. And I think you'll be shocked about how willing and enthusiastic they are to help the younger generation and give back and make a difference to you and your careers. So not only do you avoid any of the mistakes they've made, but they can be a real kind of sponsor for you to accelerate your career and exceed your potential in terms of what you want to do, pursuing your passions and living your dreams.
So thank you very much for watching this video, and thank you, Stephen, for sitting down and doing the interview with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure Clem and Chris would say that as well. And I'm hoping that the school will take all this advice that you've given us and actually use it, and to use it to kind of make themselves successful and push themselves as hard as they can into the world. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. Bye bye.
Finally, what I'd love to say is, Clem, Chris and Sam, you guys smashed it. I can see you out there interviewing illustrious world leaders on Newsnight, 10 o'clock news, maybe if you like soccer, match of the day, you'll be there. You absolutely had tons of confidence, you asked brilliant questions, brilliant listening skills, and you are interviewers of the future. So I hope you enjoyed it and had fun.
Yeah, definitely.